Let me thank everyone for coming out today. I think this is a very defining moment in our state. We are at the tail end of the 2010 election cycle. And as we close down on this election cycle, which will end in 11 days, we fully anticipate that Republicans will seize every opportunity, both in Washington and Albany, to exploit various situations for their own political benefit. I want you to understand that yesterday, the New York State Inspector General released a report, and I am very troubled by that report. I am someone who's a progressive Democrat that supports accountability and transparency. Throughout my years as an activist and as an elected official, I've been for and supported campaign finance reform and other forms of reforming government.
All right.
It is important to note that the A.E.G report that was released yesterday was over 300 pages. And in that book, it stated that I, Senator Antoine Thompson, had no involvement with that Aqueduct race deal in Queens, nor did I sit on the racing, gaming, or wagering committee. And then I also knew nothing about the fact that those contributions were coming to me as a result of various donors' involvement with A.E.G. My campaign learned about this investigation yesterday in the report, and as such, I'm returning the various contributions because I want to make sure that we exercise caution in this matter, in addition to provide transparency. That is why I am returning the money. My Republican opponent lives by a different set of rules. In fact, my Republican opponent this year has only filed one campaign finance report. Even though he announced that he was running for state senate in May, he failed to file a report until sometime in late September, and he said he's only raised $3,000 and only spent $400. Meanwhile, we have newspaper ads, people have received numerous pieces of mail and numerous numbers of automated messages. So he's trying to live by a different set of rules. I also understand that he and the Republicans are very desperate. This year, we know that people want reform in Albany, and I will continue to fight for reform and continue to fight for transparency. Some of the things that I have done as a state senator to promote accountability and transparency include monthly town meetings, having a Niagara Falls Lobby Day, having a weekly radio program with some of the folks here have either come to, been on, or interviewed me before my show or after my show. I also utilize Facebook and other electronic forms of media to stay in contact with my constituents. In the future, the Senate will look at this issue and take some action at the appropriate time when we're back in Albany.
Senator,
I'm not done yet.
I'm sorry. Give me the nod there. Okay.
I am prepared to continue my fight for working men and women and the middle class of Western New York. They need a champion, and I am prepared to continue to be the champion of the middle class of Western New York.
Right.
I am ready to continue my fight for green jobs, small business, and individuals that need a voice in Albany. I'm ready to continue that fight. We have 11 days to go. We have 11 days to go. And we won't be sidetracked with these right-wing extremist tactics. We will continue to knock on the doors. We will continue to talk to the voters. We'll talk about the results. We'll talk about our efforts to fight for good paying jobs. We'll talk about our efforts to fight for education and to protect our environment. And we have 11 days to go, and we know this is October, and we will not be the trick, and we will not be the treat. Thank you, and God bless you.
Senator, as co-chairman of the Senate campaign, Democratic Senate campaign, we were aware that your solicited A.E.G. to raise $5,000 for 5 senators, and that you got $8,600 out of that.
I was not involved with the A.E.G. project. I think it was stated in the report. I am on the Senate campaign committee. That is true. However, I've always focused on the campaign, getting people elected part. There was a news report that was put out this year that stated that I work on the communications aspect of the campaigns. I'm not responsible for fundraising. 2 years ago, when I was co-chair of the Senate campaign committee, I focused on the electoral process, which we're involved with right now, meaning helping put together the campaigns, making sure the campaigns have everything that they need in terms of bodies, mailings, etc. I've never really been involved that aggressively with fundraising, but the issue of A.E.G., the I.G. said that I had no involvement whatsoever.
So you're saying you had absolutely no knowledge of these being solicited by A.E.G. because you were co-chair at the time?
I had no knowledge of that, not at all.
Senator,
I can say that without a shadow of a doubt, and I'm sure if Mr. Tisch was here, he would say the same thing.
You know, fundraising is one thing, but the Attorney General or the Inspector General's report said that A.E.G. put the dispensation of those funds in the hands of the Senate committee that you co-chair. Shouldn't you have known about that, first off? And second off, if you didn't know, who made the decision on where those funds would go?
I'm not certain as to who made that decision. My role, as I just stated, is on the area of communications. I help with messaging for the Senate campaign committee. 2 years ago when I was involved, when we took over the majority, my role was to only help out with getting people elected in terms of making sure that they had all the tools necessary in terms of mail, etc. to get elected. I've never really been aggressively involved with the fundraising aspect. I've helped raise money, but not to that extent.
Senator,
so let me take one more question. In the area of A.E.G., the Inspector General stated clearly that Senator Antoine Thompson only received contributions like 4 other senators, and that they had no knowledge of it, they had no involvement of it. And my role, upon reading the report, I didn't even know I was in the report until later yesterday afternoon. And upon finding out that my name was in the report and that there were some contributions that were related to A.E.G., I said that we would return the money. So, you know, some people are going to try to spin it, but the fact of the matter is there was a gentleman who spent 8 months on a report who clearly stated that I had no involvement whatsoever.
Did you know Delaware
I was purely
North,
innocent.
Did you know Delaware North was bypassed in favor of A.E.G.
And I was very disappointed. I was very disappointed that Delaware North had lost the bid. I was very concerned by that. And the fact of the matter is that I think most people wanted to see Delaware North. Unfortunately, they didn't win. They tried a second time, and then they pulled out at the 11th hour.
What's your reaction to the report? I mean, it's a pretty damning report.
I said earlier, Rich, that I'm very troubled by it. My entire career and prior to being an elected official, I've always been for transparency and accountability. I have no problem with the fact that the Inspector General created this report. That's why we created the Inspector General's office as an independent watchguard, and I'm just glad that I had no involvement outside of someone giving me some contributions. And upon receiving notice that I was in that report and the taint that's on the money, we're sending it back. And I think it's important to note as well, lastly, that campaigns and candidates return money, right? It's not unusual for campaigns to return money. And so I'm doing what most campaigns do. They find out there's a problem with a contribution, they do the right thing and return it. And that's what I'm simply doing.
Will you return the $12,000? Will you return the $12,000 that was used to print the book at taxpayer expense?
I'll respond to that in 1 second.
Did it come directly from A.E.G. or what?
No, not at all. No. I've never, to the best of my knowledge, I have not met anyone from A.E.G. I think that they stated that I had no involvement with A.E.G.
But that donation, where did that come from?
I think a business person gave me those contributions, which was stated in a report but it also stated in the report that it was not directly from A.E.G. And I think that's what needs to be reported. We need to follow what the Inspector General's report says. The Inspector General's report says that Senator Antoine Thompson, that is me, had no direct contact with them. I was not involved in the negotiations. I had no knowledge that people were bundling money for A.E.G.
And there's one last question.
Why would it go to you?
I have no idea.
And what about the $12,000 that was used to print the book that's being used at campaigns as a campaign piece?
First, let me thanks for that question, because I think that's a very important issue to respond to. Elected officials produce studies and reports all the time. Some are small, some are big. Since I've been in public office, I use various ways to help my constituents know what I'm doing and to seek input. So for example, I have a weekly radio program where I talk about issues and listen to ideas. I have monthly town meetings. I have one in Niagara Falls tomorrow. I have one in Buffalo next week. I do them all the time, not just when I'm running. When it talks about this issue of reports, right? My state of the district, public officials issue reports all the time. And since I've been on the city council and the state senate, I have consistently put out reports. And I came in office in the Senate in 2007, in 2008, 2009, and 2010, I had a report. The difference between when we were in a minority and we were in a majority is that when we were in a minority, when we put out reports, the Republicans wouldn't allow us to, they controlled what we were able to put on our websites. When the Democrats took over, we elected various members and control what they put on their websites. So that's why now we have reports on our sites.
Thank you very much, everyone.
And I just want to emphasize before I leave that the reports talk about legislation, ideas, projects, policies, and direction that we're going. I think that's a positive thing, and I encourage people to do that, and I encourage everyone to go on my nyssenate60.com and read the report for themselves. And people have contacted our office and said that the reports are actually very informative. Thank you, and thanks for coming.